Okay, I'll chair the first session. Our first speaker would be Professor and Father Joseph Tham. I know Father Joseph for many years, and he is indeed a person with multiple talent. He is trained as a physician, a doctor, a practice doctor, then turned into a bioethicist. But at the same time, he also an artist. So today he's going to give us a very special talk on the cultural exchange and by using his own experience about this fusion of arts from the Eastern and the Western. Now, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Alan and to Father Stephen for inviting me to share my little experience I have on this enormous topic. Really live in a very interesting time where there's a lot of exchanges happening. The world is getting smaller, and the East meeting the West. Obviously, this started centuries ago, but right now the meeting is taking on a different, I guess, tone, sometimes friendly, sometimes not so friendly. So I think we live in a very interesting moment in this juncture of history. So I'm not sure you saw this news. It just came out probably last month or so about this famous lion in Venice, St. Mark's Square. You know that St. Mark is a patron of Venice, and St. Mark, one of the four evangelists who wrote the Gospels, is represented by a lion. And so that's why they have a lion on top of this square. But what came out recently is that people were doing studies about the statue of the flying lion, and to the surprise that this lion actually is made in China. And that was, for the Italians, a little bit of a shock. But basically, they found that this part of this statue came from an older statue, probably in the 13th, 14th, 15th century, they're not sure, but probably was modified from a basically a guardian, a tomb guardian, right? That was used in that period in China. They don't know exactly what happened, how it came all the way to Venice, and how it basically was modified to become the famous lion of Venice. But I think this is a very interesting fact. It means that there has always been, and probably always will be, this interchange between the East and the West in the artistic representation, in religion, in culture. So this has been going on for centuries, even before Marco Polo, but I guess he was the one who started it, or the most famous one who had began this interchange with China when China was not known in the West. But this is continue to happen, and it's very interesting, and we should pay attention to that today, especially in a world that I was saying that is becoming more polarized, right? I'm sure you hear about this in the news, mostly political and economical. There's some kind of power struggle, or whatever you call it, right? Polarization between the West and the East, between especially United States and China. But, I mean, it happens all the time. I guess this is a phenomenon that happens and will continue to happen. You know, in the world powers, there's always going to be struggle. And in this new reality that we live today, obviously it is technological, it's economical, it's political, it's also, I guess, related to information, right? So because we live in a world where whoever knows, like knowledge is power, whoever knows more will basically have a greater dominion. So there's also that part about information technology. And the other thing that is extension power is also geographic, right? Either in the time of Marco Polo, we talk about the Silk Road, and now that's the One Road, One Belt initiative from China, and then also different possibilities of extension or of your influence in the world. So this is happening, and hopefully what we're seeing is not going to be such a terrible confrontation. Now, I wanted to mention something that is less related to politics. Obviously, everything is politics, but more artistic. I think it's important to not just look at the differences or polarization that is mostly what you see in the news, right, which is mostly economic and so on. But from a deeper level, I think what we need to look at is from the cultural interchange that's happening in the world between the East and the West, because I think polarization could be mitigated, maybe not totally avoided, if there is a greater cultural interchange where the East and the West meets, not only in the practical, technological, economical kind of level, but also a deeper level of encounter of maybe confrontation or differences. But I think that's very important. Culture always, you would also talk about religion, which is part of a lot of cultures. So that deeper understanding also of the similarities and convergence and differences about the worldview or religious view is also important. So what I wanted to show you is this recent exposition of art. I'm not sure you've heard of it. It's called Biennale. And it basically takes place every 2 years. It's kind of like the expo, but it's in the art world, it's the biggest thing. And this happened in Venice every 2 years. There's actually one part of Venice that is basically only for that. And you have different pavilion from different countries, right? Which show the way they understand the world in some way, right? Because art is kind of like a deeper expression of how these countries or these artists see the world. These artists are chosen by the country to represent their point of view. So a very interesting phenomenon. So I went there 2 years ago. I was quite fascinated by it. And so I decided to go again this year, to Biennale. And I would only showcase 3 pavilions that are emblematic. So Italy, the United States, and China, okay? The Italian pavilion had only 2 pieces. And it's actually quite, you would say, boring, but it's actually quite deep because it's, the first piece is like this, right? It's in a room, it's kind of like a warehouse. It's huge. It's probably 4 times the size of this room. And in this room, there's only one piece of long thing, and on top of it, there's a bodhisattva or gunyam, right, on top. And so it's quite striking, very stark, very, I guess, reductive, and basically is about what? Basically, supposedly the artist explains it and said, this is a windpipe, a pipe, an organ pipe that is sounding, okay, it's a sound, right, one sound, he calls it flat A. And then you have this statue representing spirituality, contemplation, right, contemplating the sound. So basically, that was it. I was tempted to walk to the other end to see what is on the other end, but halfway through, I said, it's just a long tube. So I walked back. I never went to the other end. But that was one installation, right? The other installation, also very interesting, is it's kind of like a scaffolding made of metal, not of bamboo. And in the middle of it, there's also it's kind of like a Buddhist motif, which is actually a sculpture with water inside. And then there's some kind of sound from the metallic sound from the scaffolding. And then so the water would actually move with waves and then would actually sometimes splash up, right? So once again, it's very similar. The two idea is basically about spirituality. It's about contemplation. It's about understanding who I am, where I'm at. I mean, there's a maze here, right? And there's also where am I in this place? Interesting is that you would think that Italy would be, with the Christian roots, right, would go to its Christian roots, but interestingly, it doesn't. It goes to the East for sources of spirituality. Actually, this Biennale, I forgot to mention, is called, okay, Foreigners Everywhere, right? Stranieri ovunque. So it's mostly basically about strangers. Who are the strangers among us? And how do we encounter the other, right? The strangers that are in our midst, right? Or how do I go out to confront them? The next one is from the United States, okay? You can see very colorful, once again, the rainbow color, okay? You can understand what that represents. And this is done by also an indigenous, a Native American artist. Okay, so basically the two themes there is the stranger is basically looking towards our past, okay? The indigenous are being exploited. And now, okay, in the future, okay, we're looking about the LGBT community who are also being ignored or discriminated against. And so they use the art to show that, right? And once again, I don't know, it's very interesting when you go to this striking pavilion because it's so bright with all the colors. But at the same time, instead of inspiring joy, the color usually, rainbow color, it actually, I felt that it was very violent. The color was very violent. It actually is almost like violently imposing on you, the colors. Very interesting. The Chinese pavilion, okay, very interesting. I brought the flyer so you can look at it. It's called Atlas, Harmony, Diversity, right? So this is a Chinese pavilion. And one of the pieces that they showed is basically talking about harmony through diversity, looking at basically one of the main projects they did is basically a catalog of all the Chinese art in all over the world. They cataloged it, put it in a computer, printed it, and then basically categorized it and basically had a very detailed scanning of everything. So basically using this technology to portray the past. So this is interesting because China is basically going through that phase where it's trying to hold on to its tradition, but yet also trying to project to the future through innovation. Now, now I'm going to talk about what I'm trying to do, right? Art for God is, in Chinese, is called Heaven, Earth, Humanity, and Harmony. My art is basically, since I'm raised in Hong Kong, my background is Chinese. My training is, however, Western, right? Trained in Rome and in the West, in Canada. So I'm trying to combine also the East and the West in my artistic expression. So as you can see, this site, I'm not sure those who are Italian can tell where this place is. Capri. Capri is a place where I was. So this is Capri Island. And then on top, obviously, there's a Guilin, okay, in Chinese place. And then this seal, which is basically Tinde War, basically is talking about heaven, earth, humanity in harmony. But I'm trying to use a very traditional seal carving technique to represent a Chinese seal, but also hidden within it are some Christian messages. You can see the cross, right? You can see the word heaven, okay, Tian, and the word man, okay. They look like two stick figures, right? But one stick figure, heaven, is standing, and the other one is bowing down, right? So basically it represents the incarnation of Tian into a man, right? And then you can also see the three dots, round dots represent the Trinity, right? And the size of the seal is about this big. So it's basically the size of the Eucharist communion. So basically I'm trying to use the Chinese motifs, Christian motifs inside the Chinese traditional calligraphy and seal carving. Here probably is easiest to understand because these are biblical verses in Chinese calligraphy. One is Psalm 23, and the other one is basically a phrase from the Gospel where it says, "Foxes have caves and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Okay, and here another seal carving is saying from Confucius, right? Confucius. If I know my Tao in the morning, I can die at sunset. But then what I have kind of modified in this design is the word Tao. The word Tao in Chinese actually looks like a crossroad with a man on it, right? So I designed it to look like a crucifix, right? So it says, if I know my Tao in the morning, basically Christ, Jesus, then I can die. I'm happy to know. So here, so this is another way to kind of converge the East and the West, the logos and the Tao, right? Another way of trying to look for convergences between East and West, sometimes things by Confucius, by Lao Tzu, and also by artists, right? The one, oh, actually, the words are wrong. Anyway, it doesn't matter, okay? The one in the middle, maybe I explain just the one in the middle, basically it's a saying by Lao Tzu, right? Basically says the one who is the most straight looks as if he is crooked. The one who is very intelligent or smart looks like he is stupid, right? And the one who is most eloquent now appears to be silent. And here basically is a saying from Lao Tzu, but I think can apply to Jesus Christ on Good Friday, right? He's the straightest, the most eloquent, and most, I guess, wise, right? The other calligraphy, this one is from Confucius, And here basically is giving up life for the sake of righteousness. But then in the small script, I'm trying to explain this also from the book of Romans, right? That Jesus gave his life for the sake of righteousness. This one is from St. John the Cross. We've been talking about St. John the Cross at lunch today. And here, basically, I wrote 7 words of nothingness, nada, and then 7 words of being, right? So here, once again, St. John the Cross, when he talks about 7 nothingness, he's talking about how to empty yourself, right? In the ascent of Mount Carmel, right? How do you empty yourself in order to reach the fullness of being? Obviously, here this is a conversation with Buddhism, where they also talk about nothingness, right? But here I would also try to see that what does nothingness lead us to, right? If it is not for us Christian, it's leading us to the fullness of being, right? And in the seal is another seal, which is the 3 begets everything, basically from Tao Te Ching. Once again, here the 3 that begets everything. 1 begets, no, the Tao begets 1, the 1 begets 2, the 2 begets 3, and 3 begets everything, right? So here it's an allusion, once again, to the Trinity in the process of creation. Spirituality here, once again, animals. I think I'm running out of time, right? 5 minutes more, 4 minutes more. Okay, so animals is a way to contemplate nature. And I guess there's something that is converging we've been doing workshops on this last time with Alan, how the Buddhists can basically teach us, Christians, how we could live with nature in a way that is not exploiting it. I mean, this is what Pope has been talking about in Laudato Si. And sometimes I think we can also, it goes both ways, right? We can learn from that. And the last piece is a saying in the middle from the Emperor Kangxi in praise of, explaining Catholicism, right? Something that is without beginning, without end, who is the true creator, the one who is Ren and Yi, right? So the logo of university, and who is the savior of all powers or something like that. On the other side, you have a prayer of St. Ignatius, the Suscipe, right, in Chinese. I purposely, on purpose, wrote it in gold on blue, which is the color of the Buddhist sacred texts, gold on blue. So basically, I'm trying to use all these different similarities, contrasts, and ways by which I can see how the East and the West, the spirituality converges in some way. It's not really intentional. It's something, I guess, that I really feel it, right? Because being from the East, but living in the West, and trying to express my art, it comes up quite naturally. It's not something that I'm trying to, like, on purpose trying to do it. It just kind of comes out naturally. Okay, this looks nice, because this is something that resonates with me. This is what I'm trying to do. There's some pieces of work on the outside. You can admire them in its original presentation. So that's basically it. Thank you.